Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Got a couple minutes past the hour. Thank you to everybody for joining us for this DirectLink Community Class on protecting your personal information online. My name is Connor, and with me today is Amy Russ, who will be helping to answer questions and to provide some additional resources in the chat and in other areas as well. So, just a couple of quick things before we get into it today. You may have seen that we are recording the class today, and the video replay will be available here at directlink.coop/classes. Also on that webpage, you can find additional details and recordings of past classes that we've done, along with future offerings when information becomes available on those classes. Just a quick reminder, we also have a company survey going on right now that we sent to each member's primary email account inbox in the last week. So if you've already taken the survey, thank you so much. We really appreciate your feedback. But if you haven't, we'd love it if you could go back to your email and take a look at that survey and take just a few minutes to complete it. The data will stay local to the community here and will help the DirectLink Cooperative identify and prioritize future projects and policies based on the responses that we receive from you, the members. So if you have a couple minutes, we'd love for you to take that after the class today. And just to keep things organized during our Zoom webinar today, we've got about an hour or so, and I want to respect everybody's time this morning too. So in order to kind of stay on track, we're going to be using the chat and the Q&A functions in the Zoom toolbar to facilitate questions and comments. So I've got an image here on my shared screen that I hope everybody can see. And this right here is the chat function, and then this is the Q&A function. I'm going to pull up the chat really quick just to make sure I can see if folks are saying anything. And Amy's going to help me out with the chat, any questions that come in as well. So you can use the chat function there to ask any questions or leave comments, or if you'd like, you can also use that Q&A button right there. If maybe you'd like a private reply to your question, just for an example, you'll want to use that Q&A button. If you don't see this toolbar on your screen, just kind of move your mouse a little bit over the screen that you can see here. If you're on a laptop or a desktop computer, that'll bring the toolbar up if it's hidden maybe at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on a tablet or a smartphone, just tap your finger on the screen and then that toolbar will come up as well, where you can see these buttons as well. Okay, and with that, let's go ahead and get started and talk about the best ways to protect your personal information online. So, scammers are getting smarter. New computer technology and software make it easier to crack passwords. Companies constantly face the threat of data breaches, exposing the personal information of their customers and their employees. More and more of our daily lives takes place in a virtual world. Our medical and financial documents are often kept in cloud storage. Credit card and banking information is saved across multiple services and websites. And our refrigerators can even now send an alert to our phones to let us know that we're low on milk. So it's more important than ever to make sure that you're taking the necessary precautions to safeguard your personal information online. So online scams become more prevalent every year. In the US alone, 1 in 10 adults will be scammed every year. In 2020, consumers reported losing more than $3.3 billion to fraud. So this is a big industry, and scammers are constantly looking for new ways and targeting more people every year. The most common ways that folks get scammed are through phishing attempts, which we'll talk about in a moment, or non-payment scams hoping to get you to give up your banking information. Still, we often think that a hacked email account or a compromised checking account password or a computer virus attack couldn't happen to us, when in reality, it very much can happen, and unfortunately, it does. Okay. Most of us have heard stories of successful malware or ransomware attacks on school districts, city governments, and unfortunately, even legendary local restaurant chain and McDonalds. Yep, earlier this year on the news, it was announced that McDonalds had suffered an attack on their online security, and the records of up to 30,000 current and former employees were breached. The hackers potentially gained access to social security numbers, phone numbers, email addresses, birth dates, income information, and more. And this is a big company with resources for high-level security. Another example, Last summer, the city government of Joplin, Missouri was actually hit with a ransomware attack that made its way into their system. They actually had to resort to an insurance payout of $320,000 to an unknown person after their computer system was shut down. And they also had to pay this ransom to prevent any sensitive information obtained from being exposed. So these sorts of attacks are becoming more common. You may have even seen some of these on the news recently as well. And when they do happen, the personal information of businesses and individuals is put at risk whenever these data breaches happen. Now, of course, these are some extreme examples of malicious attacks on specific organizations, and they took the necessary steps to right the ship by beefing up security and providing tools to folks whose information may have exposed. But the fact remains that these sorts of attacks are becoming more common, and the personal information of businesses and individuals can become exposed. So what can you do about it? How can you best safeguard your most important info, your email passwords, your bank account logins, your social security numbers, your address? Today, we're going to talk about these 5 ways to best lock down your online security. Number 1, you're going to watch for phishing emails and texts, create longer and more complex passwords, use a password manager to store your logins, utilize 2-factor login authentication where available, and be aware of social media scams. So we're going to go through each of these, some things to look out for and some things that you can do. But before we jump into the serious stuff, let's take a look real quick at what one comedian decided to do to combat the influx of scam emails he'd been receiving. And if you can't hear the video very well, just make sure to turn up your volume a little bit and it should come through okay. So here we go.
Guys, I'll tell you what, any day is a good day. Any day is a good day if you receive an email that begins like this. I am Winnie Mandela, the second wife of Nelson Mandela, the former South African president. I was like, oh, that Winnie Mandela. I know so many.
Sorry.
I need to transfer $45 million out of the country because of my husband Nelson's health condition. Let that sink in. She sent me this, which is hysterical. And this looks fairly legitimate. This is a letter of authorization, but to be honest, if there's nothing written on it, it's just a shape. I said, Winnie, I'm really sorry to hear of this. Given that Nelson died 3 months ago, I describe his health condition as... That's the worst health condition you can have, not being alive. She said, kindly comply with my banker's instructions. One love. I said, of course, no woman, no cry. She said, my banker would need transfer of $3,000. One love. I said, no problemo. I shot the sheriff. Thank you.
All right, so pretty hysterical look at this comedian and what he decided to do when he received one of those ridiculous emails that many of us have likely received before in our email. But all jokes aside, it's really actually not a good idea to respond to these sorts of spam messages, even if you just want to mess with the spammer and waste their time for a little bit of fun or payback. If you respond, it actually verifies to the spammer that your email address is valid and ready to be targeted with more attacks. And it can even be transferred or sold to other scammers or lists as well. So brings us into our first topic to talk about. Look out for phishing scams. And these are fraudulent messages that appear to come from reputable companies or organizations that attempt to lure you, hence the name phishing, into giving up your information, whether it's your passwords, your credit card info, your home address, phone number, birthday, social security number, or some other piece of personally identifying information. So these are what's known as phishing scams. let's talk a little bit about how to identify phishing messages and what to do if you receive one. First, the age-old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? So as much as we'd all love for it to be real, that email you got about a free Mediterranean cruise, if you just send them your social security number, has a 99.999% chance of being a scam, unfortunately. Next thing to look for, it's important to stop and think about the message's legitimacy before you do anything. How likely is it that this message is real? Just for example, if you get a message from a company or an organization saying that your payment wasn't received for something you subscribe to, and that in order to resolve it, you need to click on a link or a button in their email in order to make it right. But you know that you have autopay activated on your account and your payment always comes out every month, then you have solid reason to suspect that something is off about this message. So stop and think about the message and just make sure that it's legitimate before you take any action. Next thing, phishing attempts almost always try to get you to click on a button or a link or download some sort of attachment. This usually allows the scammer to gain access to your personal information, either by downloading malware to your device, otherwise known as a virus of some sort, or by taking you to a phony website to get you to enter your password, your social security number, your credit card number, or some other piece of information that they need. And then finally, take a look at the email address and the sender name. Do you know who it's from? Are you expecting an email from them? Does the grammar or tone of the message seem odd? A good majority of spam or phishing emails can be recognized if you just stop and take a closer look. Some may be obvious, while others may be a bit more well-crafted. However, there are things to look out for, which we will go over next. So I actually received this email recently, last week, in fact. I've done my due diligence by marking spam messages and phishing emails as such in my email client. So this one actually went right to my junk folder and not my main inbox. But sometimes these messages can slip through the cracks and get to your main inbox. So can you tell what's wrong with this email? What we're going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of time here to read through this email, take a look and see if you can kind of identify what's going on here. And then what we're going to do is launch a little poll up on the screen in about 60 to 90 seconds or so. And then you'll be able to choose your answer to what you think is wrong with that. We'll share the results with everybody. And then after that, we'll go over the different red flags throughout this email. So take a look. We'll give you a little bit of time to check out this email and see if you can spot what's wrong with this and why it should be red flagged. So, yep, pretty much everybody can see that any one of those answers in that poll would have been correct. It is number one, the email address was unrelated to the sender. If we go back and take a look, it says Mrs. Marina C. Paulson, but the email address is something totally different. So that is always a red flag to look out for in these phishing emails. There's odd or incorrect grammar throughout. That's always something to look for in these spam emails. There were instructions to reply to a different email address at the bottom of the email, and this can be a red flag as well. Let me get my screen back right here real quick. And of course, one other thing is it creates a sense of urgency. At the bottom of that email, it told me to reply urgently. Scammers actually don't want you to stop and think about the legitimacy of their message. They want to create that sense of anxiety by telling you that you have a limited amount of time to take advantage of their offer or to change your password or whatever it may be. But in reality, if you stop and take a closer look, you'll be able to find out their scheme. And then finally, just too good to be true. They wanted to send me millions of dollars, and as much as I'd love for that to be true, it just isn't. And likely any email that you receive, that's going to be the case as well. Is there sometimes will entice you in and try to offer you a large sum of money or some prize or something like that, but in return, you have to give up a piece of your information, and that's the red flag. Okay, great job, everybody. Let's take a look at another one. See if you can spot what's wrong with this email here, saying that there's an issue with your American Express account. Again, in just a few moments, you'll see a poll pop up on your screen with some questions. We'll go through them and then share the red flags in this email as well. So take a look, and then we'll launch that poll and see what you think here in just a moment. And multiple red flags here again, right? So let's go through them. So up here, the email subject line has grammatical errors. There's issue with your American Express account. That's not how an official company would represent their brand and choose to email you. The email address, again, doesn't match the sender name here, something totally different. And sometimes in email clients, you might not be able to immediately see the email address. You might only see the sender name. However, if you highlight your mouse over the sender name, or there will usually be a little arrow next to it where you can click on it, and then it'll show the full email address. I would highly recommend you do that just to make sure that the sender name and the email address match. Another thing, the American Express logo over here, it's squeezed and distorted. So that's something to look out for too. If there's any sort of elements of the email that look a little bit different or just look weird to you, that's a red flag as well. Another thing, there's a big blue button right here in the middle of the email telling you to review your account information now, creating that sense of urgency where if you were to click on it, it would likely ask you for your login credentials to confirm, quote unquote, your account number or something of the like. So generally, if there is ever an issue with any of your accounts, or maybe you need to reset your password or something, companies are never going to ask you to click on a link in an email in order to change your password. They'll ask you to open up your account, log in yourself, and then change your details. They're not going to ask you to click on something. There's not going to be a bunch of weird errors throughout. So these are all red flags to look for. Awesome job. Okay, so let's review what you should do if you receive a spam message or a phishing email. First of all, never click on a link or download an attachment from an unexpected or suspicious message. Companies and organizations, again, will never ask you to click on a link in order to change your password or update your account information or something like that. Make sure to stop and think about the legitimacy of the message. Are you expecting something like this? Does the request seem odd or suspicious? Also, like we said earlier, don't reply to the message. This could open the door for more scammers by validating your email address as an active address. They could sell it to another scam list, or it could, again, just open up the door for additional spam opportunities in the future. And then another good tip, before deleting it, mark the email as junk or spam or phishing in your email client. This is an important step because it can help your email client actually learn what's spam, what to look out for, and then it can flag those particular accounts and emails so that that account can get shut down, or they can find related accounts that use similar language to help prevent these messages from reaching folks in the future. So we're going to go over a couple of ways to do this in multiple email clients with some screenshots coming up. So first up is the DirectLink webmail interface. If you have a DirectLink hosted email, like a Webster.com or a Canby.com email address, just for example, your email client may look like this. The system was actually updated this week to improve the spam mail management features. And what you can do is click on the spam button right here at the top of the screen when a message is highlighted like this to mark it as spam. So again, this helps the email client itself, the email service, to continuously learn how to recognize these types of emails and work to prevent you from getting them in the future. And the more that you do this, the more that your email client is going to learn about your preferences and make these educated decisions on how to manage this spam email and prevent it from even getting to you in the first place in the future. So this is a good idea to do. Next up, a couple of popular email clients as well. We've got Outlook and Gmail. So Outlook is the main email service for Microsoft accounts, and Gmail is for a Google account. These are pretty popular email services. So this is one way to do it in these two services. When you are inside an email, there will be a little kind of 3-dot icon right here next to the reply or the forward options. And then if you click on that, you'll get a menu, and there will be some sort of thing that'll say security options. This is an Outlook where you can mark it as junk or phishing. And then here in the Gmail client, same thing. You can click the 3 buttons and then report it as spam. You can block the email, report it as phishing, so on and so forth. Okay. All right. So we talked about how to identify phishing emails and what to look out for, let's talk about everybody's favorite subject, passwords. Let's talk for just a moment about how important it is to have strong, complex passwords. Here is a list of the most commonly used passwords in the United States in the year 2021. Yes, these were last year's most popular passwords. These are all incredibly easy to hack, not just for the average human being that's guessing them, let alone a computer program or piece of software that can actually guess billions of passwords at a time. Yeah, you heard that right. In 2019, a record was set for the rate at which a computer program could guess password combinations. It clocked in at 100 billion combinations per second. Pretty insane stuff. And this is what is known as a brute force attack, where computers guess passwords based on every combination of letters, numbers, and symbols, right? They'll start from the top. They'll start with A, then AB, then AC, AD, AAB, so on and so forth, guessing 100 billion of these combinations down the line. So inevitably, some easy passwords will be cracked along the way. So the longer and more complicated the password, the longer it's going to take for it to be cracked by these programs. And that's the key here. It's not necessarily a matter of if your password will be cracked, it's when. So the most important thing you can do is to make your passwords longer and more complex so as to delay it from being cracked for as long as possible. So what we're going to do is take a look at a few different passwords to see if you can guess how long it will take for a computer using a brute force method to crack them. I'll give you a few seconds to take a look at these, and then again, we're going to use those polls that you've seen so far. They'll pop up on your screen and ask you for an answer. What we are using to verify these is a website called passwordmonster.com. It measures the effectiveness of passwords and can give you some recommendations for stronger ones too, and it'll even tell us how fast these passwords can be cracked. I would totally recommend you to use this service to check your passwords to see if they're strong. It never remembers or saves passwords from everybody. It's a totally anonymous, safe site. So I'd recommend checking it out to see how safe your passwords are. Okay, first up, how strong is this password right here? Take a second to think about it, and you'll see a poll pop up on your screen here in just a moment. All right, so yep, everybody got this one right. This will be hacked in 0 seconds. This is pretty much as weak as it comes for passwords. I would strongly advise you to not use something this simple for any of your passwords, because it will be cracked pretty much immediately if there ever is some sort of attack on the system. Okay, next up, what about this one? How long do you think this one will take to get cracked? Okay. So a little bit more of mixed results on this one, but pretty much everybody is on the nose on this one. And the interesting thing about this one is it actually meets the requirements for many accounts out there. Oh, sorry, there's the screen. 16.5 minutes is about the total time it would take to crack that password there. So as I was saying, this one actually meets the requirements for many accounts out there. It's a minimum of 8 characters. It's got lowercase and capital letters. It's got some numbers, and it's got a symbol in there too. So this will actually pass those password requirements when you create a new account or change your password or something like that. However, just because it might kind of meet those requirements for a password doesn't necessarily mean that it's a solid enough password to withstand a brute force attack for, as you can see, more than 16.5 minutes. Okay, let's do one more. Take a look at this password here and see what you think about how long it'll last against one of those brute force attacks. All right, so here's what you guys think. Good amount of folks think that this one will take 32 minutes. Some think 6 months, a couple 150 years, and some think it'll take 13 million years to crack this password. And Password Monster says this one's good to go for the foreseeable future, about 13 million years actually. And the reasons are, this one uses a passphrase rather than a password or a couple of words. It incorporates those capital letters and lowercase letters. And what I've done here is I've used a variety of symbols throughout. But really all I did was on the top of my keyboard where the numbers appear, I just went down the line and I inserted the next symbol down the way and inserted it between each word there. So I've got this symbol right here. I've got the pound or the hashtag symbol, the $, the percentage, and then the top caret. I don't know what that symbol's called. I'm going to call it a caret. But that's just the symbol on number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on my keyboard in between each one. And that's a strong enough password to withstand a brute force attack for 13 million years. That's with a piece of software that's guessing billions of passwords every single second. So this brings us to our top 3 tips for creating strong passwords. So you'll want them to be longer and more complex. Shoot for a minimum of 15 characters, minimum 15 characters, with a mix of capital, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, just like you saw that one right there. Try creating a phrase rather than just 1 or 2 words. See here, I took what was a pretty weak password. This one was hacked in 16.5 minutes. Fluffy dog 1 2 3 4, and I just expanded on it. I used that kind of same spirit to create a phrase, a much stronger password. I love my fluffy dog. Threw in a bunch of symbols, kept the capital letters and the lowercase letters, and this thing is never going to be hacked. Finally, this is really important. Never reuse passwords on multiple websites. And I know some of us are guilty of this. I've been guilty of this in the past. You create a strong password. It'll never be hacked right for 13 million years. I'll just go ahead and use this on every single website, right? But if it does happen to get hacked, if there is some way that it becomes exposed or somebody gets a hold of that information, it's hacked everywhere else where you use that password too. So it's important to not reuse your passwords for multiple logins. So this brings us to our next point here. With these strong passwords and with a bunch of different passwords for all your accounts is the difficulty of remembering them, of course. So thankfully, there's some useful services available out there to help keep your passwords and your usernames secure. 2 of the ones that we'll talk about today are LastPass and 1Password. LastPass is actually the service that we use here at DirectLink to make sure all of our account logins are secure. We've got super strong mega passwords that it hides behind to make sure that it's all in there as well, locked behind that. So the average person actually has about 70 to 80 different passwords for all of their different accounts that they're subscribed to. Think about any online shopping websites you might be subscribed to or have accounts with. You've got your emails, you've got your bank accounts, you've got different apps and things like that. So you've got a ton of different passwords out there. And in order to maximize your security for those accounts, you're going to want strong passwords and you're going to want different ones for each account. And that's where these services can come in to help with that. So these programs keep all of your account login information secure behind one super strong mega password, right? Locked away in what's called a vault. They're protected by some of the best encryption tools available in the market, in addition to your 1 mega password. So just as an example, my password for my last account or my LastPass account here is about 40 characters long with a mix of those different symbols and things like that. So that one is a super, super secure password and it's protected by the encryption technology as well. Another benefit is that these can actually log you into sites automatically, so you don't even have to go into the LastPass vault, copy and paste your credentials and put them in there. There's a little tool that you can use to have it sign you in, which we'll go over here in just a moment. Okay. Another nice thing is these programs can even auto-generate strong passwords and store them in your vault as well. So you don't even have to think of a strong phrase and a super complex password every single time you create a new account to try and make it different. They can auto-generate strong passwords for you and then store them in those login details inside of your password vault, which we'll show you in just a moment as well. Okay, so this is an example of what it looks like inside of the LastPass vault. You'll be able to add a variety of different items like passwords, secure notes, addresses, payment cards, bank accounts, and more. And then you can log into the vault and view or edit any of your info. And before we go any further, I should say that these accounts, these programs, have free versions as well as premium versions. So with the free version that you can go and get signed up for right away at lastpass.com. You can store as many different logins as you want, but there are some benefits to the premium service as well. Like you can add family members and share the login information to multiple accounts with family members and things like that too. But all the stuff we're talking about today is available for free. So again, this is kind of what it looks like when you have your LastPass account active. You've got all the different things that you can manage. You can change your passwords from in here to make sure that you're able to log in and then keep all of your information in there. So if you don't remember your Amazon account, your PayPal account, whatever, you can go into your vault and look at that information and log in. But I mentioned that one of the nicest things that password managers can do is to log you into sites where you have your login credentials saved for that account in your vault. So they work as browser plugins or browser extensions, like in Google Chrome, in Firefox, in Safari, or in Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer. So this image I have on the screen right here shows what the LastPass extension looks like in the Google Chrome extensions toolbar. So this is the toolbar right here where I have my extensions in my Google Chrome setup. And for those that are unfamiliar with browser extensions, these are essentially little shortcuts or helper tools that you can install into your browser, sort of like apps, essentially. So just for example, I've got my LastPass extension right here. Then I've got one right here that lets me go back and forth between light mode and dark mode on websites to reduce my eye strain if I'm looking at my screen for a long time. This is a grammar checking website, which helps with spell checking and grammar checking. This is uBlock Origin and Ad Blocker. So those are the different extensions that I have going on my browser. Just for example, the LastPass one works. So if I were to go to a site where I need to log in, this is essentially what it'll look like. This is Netflix. When you're ready to log into a site, when you have your LastPass extension enabled, you'll see kind of a little icon like this in the email, the username, and then the password field as well. So when I click on that, I've got my information, my sign-in info for Netflix in my LastPass vault. And then if I just click on this, it'll fill that with my email and then fill it with my password right away. Click login and I'm signed in. I don't have to remember that strong password. I don't even have to type it in. It'll do it for me. And this is all hidden behind that super powerful mega password. Okay. Another nice thing is you can actually use this on your smartphone as well. I have LastPass enabled on my iPhone, and it'll work a similar way. So when you're logged into LastPass, you can enable your phone to automatically log you into websites or apps that require you to log in. It'll autofill those passwords when using the web or when logging into different apps that you have the information for them saved with. So it works not only on the web, but it works on your phone as well. And it'll be linked to the same account. So anything where you use the same account on your computer or on your phone, if you have your LastPass account linked to it, you'll be able to use it to log into those sites, create strong passwords, and then access your passwords if you need to on your smartphone in addition to your computer. So nice feature there. I mentioned that these password managers can even create strong randomized passwords for you and then save them to the applicable account. So what I've got right here is actually a screenshot of the password creation tool with LastPass with the different settings that you can select. So what I did was I went to a website and I told it to create a new account. And then right there where I can type in my password, this tool will pop up and it can even auto-generate a random password for me. So you can adjust a couple of different settings here, which is really cool. The password length can go all the way up to 99 characters, which if you do a randomized password that looks something like this with random numbers or random symbols in there, 99 characters, that is going to be the most secure password ever, as secure as Fort Knox. So this is a really good tool I would suggest looking into. You can check all these boxes and tell it to include uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols in there. Click fill password, and you've just created your password for that website. It'll automatically save it to your vault so that you have it ready to go. And the next time you need to log in, it'll autofill it for you. So super useful tool in there that I recommend checking out. Okay. Next thing to talk about is using two-factor authentication. Now, some of you may have encountered this before when trying to log into a website where after you enter your password, your email and your password, and then asks you to send a code to your cell phone or to your email account, you have to go back and enter it in order to be given access to your account. Can be a little bit of a pain, but we're going to talk about why this is an important measure to really lock down the security of your most important accounts. So this provides an extra layer of security in addition to just a password. It combines something you know, your username or password, with something that you have, a smartphone or a secondary account like another email account to verify the login. So while this extra step may be a bit cumbersome or annoying, taking this extra time to safeguard your most sensitive accounts can really save you big time if a breach were to ever happen, or if your login credentials ever got into the wrong hands. I would recommend using two-factor login authentication for your most sensitive accounts, mainly your email account and your online banking information. And I say email because it can often be the gateway to scams. So let's think about this. If someone gets a hold of your email password and can then log into your email account, they can reset the passwords of any other accounts that use that email address, because if anybody's ever had to reset their account, you hit that reset password button or create new password, it'll send an email to you. You click that button and reset your password. So if someone's got access to your email, they can do that for your bank. They can do that for your Amazon account where your credit cards are stored, stuff like that. So email is an important one to try and lock down as much as you can. And then of course, online banking to protect your financial information as much as possible. Okay, so this is generally what two-factor authentication looks like. When you go to log into a site or an app, after you enter in your username and your password, you'll then be sent an additional code to your smartphone via a text message or to your email account or a separate email account if you want to go that route instead of getting a text message. The screen that you entered your email and password into then won't move forward until you enter the correct code in that corresponds to the one that they sent you. So this is why it's a good idea to have it set up, because even if someone were to, for example, get their hands on your bank account login info, they wouldn't be able to log into your account because an additional code would need to be entered in order to get into the account details screen. So this is why I would recommend using your cell phone as the two-factor authentication method, because if someone has your username and your password and they enter it in somewhere else, but then a code gets sent to your phone, which you have on your person, they're not going to be able to get in because they don't have the code that was sent to your specific device. So this is how two-factor authentication works. Now, just a couple of quick examples on how to set this up. So this is in my personal Google account right here. And it's going to be this kind of general setup for a variety of different accounts, but I'm going over Gmail just because this is a pretty popular one. And I would definitely recommend setting it up for an email account as well. So there's generally going to be some sort of a security or a privacy type of tab here in your account settings, like the one here shown in the Google account settings. And then this is how to set it up for a Gmail account. You'll click on security right here. Then from there, you can go to a drop-down menu right here where it says two-step verification, and then navigate through the process to turn it on. It'll have you confirm your phone number, send you a code, enter that code back onto the screen where you set this up, and then it'll be good to go. You can see that mine is active right here and then linked with my cell phone number. And then this is what you'll see on the Gmail account, or something similar to this with another account. If you were to set it up on those, is some sort of explainer that says, yeah, you're going to protect your account with two-step verification. It adds that extra layer of security to keep the bad guys out. So again, this is a really powerful tool that I would recommend doing for those most sensitive accounts. Maybe you've got your online banking account set up. I, for one, have my bank account app on my phone that I'll sometimes use. I'll sometimes use it on my computer. And I actually have two-factor authentication set up for both. So if I ever try to log into my bank account on a web browser in Google Chrome, I'll enter in my login information, and then it'll send me the code to my phone. I have to enter that in, and it'll let me log in. Same thing if I log in on my phone itself, just for even extra security. If someone were to somehow ever get their hands on my phone, if I log in, it'll send me another code that I'll then need to do through my email. So this is a nice way to really lock down that security. You've got your strong passwords. It's protected behind your LastPass account with a super strong mega password. Even if somehow somebody gets their hands on it, you'll have this extra step in order to protect you from having someone log into your account fraudulently. Okay. I see some great questions coming in, and thank you so much, Amy, for helping out with those. We're going to have an additional piece of time here at the end to answer some more questions on the live broadcast. But for our final online security tip here first is watching out for social media scams. These have become increasingly common in recent years as more social media platforms are created and more people hop onto them to use them. So while there are many types of scams that pop up on social media apps and sites, if you remember the tools you've learned so far in this class, you'll know what to look out for. So again, be aware of suspicious language or scenarios you receive, especially if you aren't expecting them. Stop and think about the legitimacy of an offer or a message before taking any action or clicking on a link. You see an article that tells you that if you just click here and you'll receive a $1,000 Amazon gift card. You know, how likely is it that that's a real thing? Just stop and think for a second before you take some sort of action on those. In addition, any publicly shared information on your social media pages could be used by scammers to try to gain access to your personal info or to find a way into getting access to it. We'll talk about this in just a moment as well. So in addition, oversharing on social media could provide real world vulnerabilities as well. Just as an example, if you publicly share on your pages that you're going to be on vacation 3,000 miles away for a few weeks, you know, that could lead people or let basically anybody looking at your page to know that you're going to be away from home for a while. That could open up the door for theft or trespassing, something of the like. This is an extreme example, of course, but you know, it's still a good idea to think about limiting how much you share about yourself, how much personal information you share on your social media pages. So a couple of examples of popular social media scams to watch out for. We're going to watch another quick video real quickly here. And then this is what's known as a, sometimes referred to as a grandparent scam. This is where a scammer poses as a relative or a friend, pretends to be in an emergency situation where they need you to send them money, something like that. So let's watch this real quick 40-second video from the Federal Communications Commission to show you what this sort of scenario could look like.
Granddad, it's me. An accident in Mexico. I'm in jail.
Jimmy, is that you?
Yeah, it's Jimmy. I need money for bail right now.
In jail?
You need to send money right now. Please don't tell anyone.
Scammers are tricky and can pretend to be anybody in any situation. They seem like the real deal. They play on your fears. The goal? To get you to act fast. Check out if they really are who they say they are, even if they sound like a loved one. Heard from an imposter? Report it at ftc.gov/imposters.
Excuse me, that was the Federal Trade Commission, not the Federal Communications Commission, another organization that helps to monitor and then stop these sorts of scams from happening. But so while that video demonstrates a potential scam, that video demonstrates a potential scam over a phone call, this scam is also commonly occurs in messages on social media as well. I've actually seen accounts become mimicked by scammers where they'll use the same name and profile picture of someone's page, create a new phony account, and then start messaging contacts that are friends with that person, pretending to be them, asking for money, or perpetrating other scams. And because it came from who you think it is, right? You might think it's that person because it has the same name or the same profile picture or something of the like. That could open the door for you to think that it's real. But again, just make sure to kind of stop and think about the legitimacy of a message or a call before taking any action and verify that the situation is real. So you see what the man in the video did. He actually called somebody else to verify if what he heard on the phone could be true. He found out that his grandson wasn't even in Mexico, so he knew right away that this was a scam. If possible, always try to verify with a third party or reach out to the person themselves who sent you the message and ask them if it's real. Ask them if it's legit. If you get a weird message from someone on Facebook, maybe a close friend or a family member, think about giving them a phone call and saying, hey, is this from you? Did you mean to send me this? You know, you might think about resetting your password so that you can secure your account. So things to look out for as well. Here is another common way that your personal information can get hijacked. You know those fun quizzes you sometimes see on Facebook that can tell you your Disney princess name or which character you would be in the Harry Potter universe? Those can sometimes be scam opportunities of attempting to steal your personal information. Think about the types of questions that they ask in these surveys. Why do they need to know which city you were born in, the name of your first pet, your grandmother's maiden name? Those are all common account security questions that you sometimes have to answer in order to be able to log into your account, right? These are some of the things that they ask for that. So those are the types of answers that these types of scam quizzes and things like that can target. These quizzes can be a gateway to get you to reveal that information. Now, of course, not every single quiz that you see out there is a scam, but just again, it's a good idea to think about what sorts of information that you freely give out on social media, right? Okay. Another one that I actually see pretty commonly, pretty often on Instagram. This is the giveaway scam, or a fake account posing as a real one in order to hijack a legit giveaway. So I sometimes see this from pages that I follow on Instagram when they do giveaways for their products. So a lot of times this is a good way for brands to kind of connect with their customers. They'll give away some products, or they'll give away a gift card to their restaurant or something like that, right? Generally how they work is that they'll ask folks to comment on the post. That counts as their giveaway, or that counts as their entry into the giveaway, excuse me. And then after a certain amount of time, they'll go through the comments and they'll pick a random winner and contact them to get them set up with the prize that they want, right? Well, what sometimes happens is that the imposter pages pop up pretending to be the account that's doing the giveaway. I see this all the time. This fake account will then message people telling them that they've won, but of course there will be some sort of suspicious language telling them that they need to give out a piece of their personal information, or click on a link, or any number of the other shady tactics that scammers use that we've talked about today. I actually see this sometimes from some of the accounts where the page that started the giveaway will be notified of this. They'll take a screenshot of the fake account and then post it on their story or post it on their page and say, hey, this is not us. This page is trying to mimic us to try and scam you out of your information with this giveaway. And sometimes they're pretty good. They can steal the profile picture, get a username that looks very, very close. But if you really look at it, you'll check the username, you'll take a look at the profile. Maybe it has 0 followers or something like that. There's always things to look for to make sure that something is legit. So the biggest tip really with these sorts of things is to stop and think about the legitimacy of these things before you click on a link, before you give out any of your personal information, just to make sure that they're real. Okay. And again, just if you ever happen to be in this sort of situation, check to make sure that any messages that you receive from the actual legit account that's running the giveaway, and then make sure that the giveaway is actually ended. If you know that the giveaway isn't over for another 3 days, but you receive a message saying you won in just a couple of hours, right? That's a red flag. So things to look out for here. Okay, so we have actually reached the end of our 5 tips to protect your personal information online. We are going to get to any additional questions that haven't been answered yet so far and open it up for any more questions if you have them. So I want to thank Amy for responding to questions in the chat. Some great stuff I've seen coming through here. So if you have any more questions, now is your chance to put them in the chat, and then we'll work to answer them live here on the broadcast. A couple of quick things. If you have any additional questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to shoot us an email. We're at hereforyou@directlink.coop. You can send us any additional questions or comments. Save the date. The next community class that we're going to be doing is on Thursday, May 26th. And then again, I would recommend bookmarking our website for that. It's directlink.coop/classes. We'll have information on the next class on there. You can even watch the recording of this class on there if you would like as well. And then one last reminder, check your email for that company survey. We'd love it if you could give us your feedback in that survey. We're going to be using the responses from that to help guide the cooperative's future and projects and policies moving forward based on the responses that we receive. So, all right. Okay, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I see some folks leaving the meeting. It's about 11 o'clock. So look for a email from us with to the email that you registered for this class with. We'll send a link to a survey here. for your thoughts on the class. And then, of course, if you have any additional questions or comments or feedback, feel free to email us at hereforyou@directlink.coop. Then, of course, you can watch the recording for this and look for additional information on future classes at directlink.coop/classes. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you learned something and learn how to better safeguard your accounts. Again, mark your calendars for May 26th. That's when our next class will be. So thank you guys again so much. Have a great afternoon and rest of the day. We'll see you next time.